Okay, now let's talk about the female form. Okay, now the female form, how pretty much most poses go when a bride, let's say, standing in front of you, full length. Okay, so let's get you, Annette, over here. Now, this is Annette's actual wedding dress, which is the coolest ever. Beautiful, fantastic. So, now what you must know, when you're posing a bride, guys, is that if you're posing a girl front on, it's not going to show off a beautiful shape, wouldn't you agree? Okay? Now, without sounding crude, it's not meant to be crude, but if you're photographing a girl, think like a guy. What does a guy want to see? I want to ask the one gentleman in the audience here, what does a guy want to see? He wants to see shape. We want to see curves. We want to see the bust. We want to see the waist. We want to see the hips. Okay? Contrary to popular belief, okay, you women are losing weight and going on diets. We want the opposite. We want shape. We want things to hold on to. That's all I'm saying. All right? I don't know whether it's an Australian or a Greek thing, but that's what I'm saying. So just stay the way you are. Okay? I'm looking after you. Looking after you. Sorry. Now, the big thing that we can do, now if you're going to photograph a girl front on, you have to make sure that the lighting is coming from the side, because the side lighting increases texture and depth and dimension, okay? Otherwise, you see nothing at all. But if the lighting is coming from the side, we see perhaps a shadow on the cleavage, on the neckline, on the dress, and all that kind of thing. Today's not really about lighting. Certainly the lighting will affect what pose we do, but now it's very much about posing. Now, one thing that some brides do, I just want you to just give me a bad posture, just sort of slouch a little bit. Okay. So why is this no good for a bride? Why? Well, why? What's happening here is we're getting these little pinches of skin hanging over the dress, which I refer to affectionately as chicken fillets, which we want to get rid of. Okay? I love chicken fillets, that's all I'm saying, but not on a wedding day. So what we want to do is we want to bring the shoulders back. Now, what is a byproduct of actually bringing the shoulders back? So we eliminate those pinches of skin, but what else happens to the bride? We had the gentleman in the audience say her breasts went up. Now, the way I like to say it, a politically correct way of saying that is the twins say hello. So, you ready? Hello. Okay. So they say hello. It's all good. It's all good. Thank you very much. All right. Exactly. So now, not only that, is we have to bring the arms off the body. If the arms are pressed up against the body, what happens is the arms look a bit fuller, which we don't want. Okay? Every woman in the world that I've ever met, they never want their arms to look big. It's sort of one of their problem areas. Wouldn't you agree? So never press anything up against the arm. And if you do, then you would hide it with something else. Okay? So let's turn around. So, shoulders back and arms off the body. Now, you've got to be careful, because why would a bride walk around like this all day? It's almost like she's walking into a saloon ready to kill someone. But so we got to give her an excuse to bring her arms off her body. Certainly the hands and the hips. Certainly picking up the dress, holding it. Maybe holding the groom's arm, for example. It could be all these little different things. It could be holding the veil out, holding the flowers. But we have to give her an excuse to bring her arms off her body. Certainly if we are giving... if she, let's say, we're doing a stylized portrait, you can do anything you want. But if you want it to sort of appear and feel natural, then that's what you want to do. Okay? So, shoulders back, arms off the body, and now we're getting somewhere. Now, why is it important to actually make the chest look fuller, let's say? Why would you say that would be? Certainly if she's already got a generous bust area, perhaps we might want to minimize it, but why is it important that we actually make the bust look fuller? Because that's where the shape starts. Yeah? So now let's talk about the ways that we can make the chest look fuller. Okay, there's a few ways we can do it. Now, if I actually said to you, just bring our arms down for a moment, without the experience that we've already discussed in yesterday's shoot and everything, if I just said to you lean forward, how would you do that? Without even thinking, just lean forward, go for it. Okay, so if you lean forward, what happens is your bust now is almost hidden by your arms, therefore there's really no shape. Now go back again. Now, if I said to you, now lean forward with your chest, what would you do? Lean forward with your chest, keep on going. See, what happens is, you thought, wait a second, okay, so it's like this, okay, rather than like that. And it's the kind of language that we basically talk about. Isn't that right? All right, so I want you, on the count of 3, I'm going to get you to take a really big, deep breath in, okay? As in, just fill up your lungs on the count of 3, okay? Everyone, inappropriately look at this area, okay? Zoom up to this area. Okay, ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. You see what happened? So it lifts up the chest. Now, for those of you who do boudoir, for example, when you've got more of the body exposed, it's a perfect way. What happens is this goes bigger and this goes tighter, okay? And if you go tighter and stretch, even better. All those different things. If you're photographing a guy, let's say, you're doing boudoir, okay? Breathe in and then flex the stomach in, and that's going to make everyone look amazing, okay? So that's a good thing to do. All right, now, the golden rule also with the female form is you never want straight body parts, okay? It has to be curved. Everything has to curve and has to flow. I'll give you an example. So if I'm going to get all you guys now to just do this for me, and you do it as well, darling, so put your hand out. Okay, the way you're doing it now, do you see the way I've asked you? You've actually just put it out. Now, if I said to you, relax, that's what you want from a bride. Everything has to be soft, okay? Another example is this. Everyone, put your flat hands on your biceps, including the cameramen. Put your hands on your biceps. I'm joking. All right, so like that. And now, roll the wrists around. That's what you want. Now, you'll be amazed if you ever worry about posing hands. If you actually remember this example, this can satisfy everything. Now, think about this. So do that again. Now, watch what happens. So let's say if I was the bride and you were the groom as an example, watch this hand. This hand would go here. This hand would go here. This hand would go here. This hand would soften the dress here. Never straight. Put your hands down straight. You see how it's just too straight. There's nothing going on. There's no flow. Well, you want everything to be sexy. So if she's picking up the dress, for example, she would need to bend the arm back, shoulders back. That's it. And soften the hands. Or if, let's say, do something like this. So nice like this, or like this. In other words, you need spirit fingers. Everything has to be soft, okay? So just relax everything, okay? All right, beautiful thing. Now let's talk about her whole body. In fact, what we'll do, we might get Rosie in now because she's got exposed legs, which might help us to work out the pose. Thank you very much. Round of applause for our beautiful bride. Bit of a golf clap. All right. So let's come back here again. Again, let's start with the body. So we go here, shoulders back, and the arms off the body. Now let's look at her body. Now that we've got exposed legs, it's important that we understand how to pose the legs, because even if we're photographing the upper body, posing starts with the feet. So if we want to see more shape, we turn her body, obviously, so we can see her bust line, her waist, and her butt line. Watch what happens, though, that if we pose her incorrectly. Even as someone who's very, very slim and a beautiful figure, like Rosie here, watch what happens. I want you to point your toe out towards the audience there. Yep. And then I want you to shift your weight this way. So if you look at this area, do you see how it's actually a lot bigger? What happens if you were to shoot photojournalistically, for example, and the bride just happened to be doing this? Let alone if this is close to the camera and close towards the light source, the problem is this area will appear a lot larger. And of course, it'll even show even more if with a white dress. So what you want to do is shift the weight all the way back. Now bend the knee for me too. Now do you see how you actually naturally shifted your weight forward? That again is going to make you appear heavier. So what you want to do, this is how I would start it. So just relax your legs a bit, okay? And I want you to just mirror what I do here, okay? So just turn your body that way. Yeah, and point this one towards me. That's it. Bend the knee and shift the weight back. So like this. There we go. Beautiful. So you see that her figure looking quite amazing there. And let's put your hands on your hips there just for the sake of the argument and turn your face that way. Now, it could be that way, or she could just be flat onto the camera and unwrap your legs there. Just go perfectly straight. That's it. So bring your legs side by side. Or she can look like that. She still looks cute. We want to bring out the best in her. Wouldn't you agree? I find in my career, many people have said, Jerry, you only photograph beautiful women and in great locations. That's why you get great shots. Whether you're photographing, let's say, someone as very attractive and as beautiful as Rosie, or someone perhaps not so conventionally attractive, it still takes someone to bring out the best in them. And these kinds of things are really going to bring out the best. And of course, if you combine the right pose and you combine the right lighting, you're going to make anyone look quite amazing. Let alone, just on that talk, although it's a little bit different from our posing, you need to understand that everyone, if you photograph the way you are as a person. So if you deem someone to, dare I say it, be ugly, you are never going to capture their beauty, aren't you? So I'm saying to you is that I photograph the way I am as a person, I see the good in everyone, which means I know how to extract the beauty out of them. And when it comes to posing, it means that we want to hide weaknesses and amplify strengths. How many times have you photographed a beautiful bride who is drop-dead gorgeous, but there's some insecurity there that they're conscious of something of themselves? What I do often is it's almost like I picture someone as a caricature of themselves. Like, what does a cartoonist do when they draw you? They emphasize every possible thing and they make it ridiculously big. For example, I've got a very tall forehead. Let's call it generous. It's a very generous forehead, right? So if a cartoonist was to draw me, he would draw my forehead, okay? Which means that if I was to photograph a guy like me, do you think I'd photograph me up above? I wouldn't, because my forehead goes on forever. Would I crop my camera, crop my shot here? No, because my head goes on forever. Okay, so it's all these different things that you have to look out for, and that comes with time and it comes with experience. Okay, so again, let's just do this again. In fact, what we'll do it with a net this time, just to show you the difference with a white dress. Thank you so much. So let's do this again. So we'll turn your body that way. Okay, then I want you to point your toe towards the audience there. So bring it right out. So even if we can't see the legs, it's important that we do that. And then bend the knee. See how you're shifting your weight that way? What you want to do now is shift your weight back. If you shift your weight back, this leg can just go up, no problem. Okay, that's the most important thing. Otherwise, if you go forward, it just rests everything forward. Everything looks a little bit heavier. Okay. Now, I want you to shift your weight properly that way towards the audience. Do you see how bigger that looks? Which we don't want. Okay. We want to shift it right back. And again, what happens is now naturally the chest is going to go forward, make the chest look fuller. We bring the shoulders back, and now we're looking amazing. So this is the foundation of almost every female pose that I'll actually do. Okay? Almost every female pose starts with this. Whether the groom's hugging from behind, whether the groom's hugging from the front, we're going to show you how this works in a moment when it comes to actually photographing a couple, as in together. And then we'll work out if perhaps the bride is maybe plus size, what would we do? If she's a bit thinner, what do we do? And there's all these little problem things that I've seen over the years that perhaps we can correct on the spot. Okay? But this is what it's all about. Also, it's important that when she leans forward and she brings her chin up, that now we're going to lose a little bit of that skin that sort of gathers up on underneath our chin. Otherwise, if we're too straight, that'll come down, and again, that'll be a sort of a problem area. Also, we want to look at this kind of area. Sometimes when a particular pose can emphasize those rolls of skin that happen. Now, there's a couple of things we can do. We can either just bring the hair around if that pose just doesn't allow for a clean skin, or we can bring the veil over as well. If you don't like something in a shot, hide it. If you can't hide it, crop it. If you can't crop it, then just don't simply shoot. Okay, there's always an answer. So for example, if we were dealing with a plus size bride, that veil will be over the bride's shoulders the whole day. If she has long hair, it'd be nice to actually just soften those shoulders. Even if she's not plus size, you might get this big patch of skin that's quite white. You've got this sort of darker makeup over here, and then it might look a bit uneven. That's a really nice way of softening it up there as well. Okay. Also, sometimes, depending on the angle, you might get the chin overlapping the shoulder. Let's say, for example, something like this. Let's turn your face this way, darling. So if your chin overlapped the shoulder from your perspective, what happens is that you get no separation. If you get no separation, you don't know where her face stops and starts and so on. So therefore, I'm saying is if you push the hip this way and you drop the shoulder, and then we had a bit of air between it, that'll be great. Unless you go obviously close up, and there's obviously light and shade that hits the actual shoulder, and then therefore we're getting this sort of beautiful little feeling over here as well. Now, what's a typical pose that we may do, let's say, at a bride's home? Have you seen that typical shot that we've seen where the bride parts the curtains? You know that really original shot that every photographer has done at every single wedding from the past 100 years? So I'm saying to you is, let's just work out how we can make that look better. Okay? Now, the problem is, even though that we can't see her feet, it's just a straight line. We have to understand that our eyes read from top left to bottom right. Top left to bottom right. I don't know why that happens. God made us that way. He said, by the way, top left to bottom right, you're going to dig it. Okay? Now, what does that mean? It means that if you're going to do this as a flow, soften those hands, soften that elbow, and maybe bring this down a little bit so that this flow is there. Now, we said we never want a bride flat-footed. We should either shift her weight left or right. With the flow now, which way do you think we should actually shift her weight, left or right? Right, absolutely. So now, I want you to push your weight here on the hip this way. Do you see how that just added a bit of movement to it? Beautiful flow, and you might even turn the face this way. And that's going to make a huge difference. Makes sense? Nice flow, nice curves. Again, take it personally. For you girls in the audience, when you're photographing a bride, what I want you to do is you're photographing yourself. You would take a lot care if you have an out-of-body experience and you were photographing yourself. You wouldn't say, oh, look, stop eating Krispy Kremes and, you know, it's okay. You know what I mean? You would basically take it personally, wouldn't you? You would look at everything, hide weaknesses, amplify strengths. That's what you would do. Same with a guy. So if you're a guy photographing a guy, you're photographing yourself. If you're a girl photographing a guy, you would want to make him look like the most handsome guy on the earth and vice versa. That's what it's all about. So hopefully it's given you a lot of insight as to how to photograph the female form, and we'll develop a lot more ideas when we talk about photographing couples and perhaps bridal party as well. So now, next what we're going to do is we're going to show you some ideas on how to photograph a dude.